So it's our pleasure to have Ms. Nandini Raman, who is a counseling psychologist, to talk to our students today on the ethics of counseling. It's my pleasure to introduce our resource person for the day. Ms. Nandini Raman is a consultant counselor, a corporate trainer, and a columnist with the Hindu's educational supplement called The Edge, and contributes to a successful weekly column called Off the Edge. She comes with 13 long years of experience in this field and is a guest faculty at many prestigious banks, schools, and educational institutions. She is people oriented, an extrovert, enthusiastic, and cheerful, always ready to educate, encourage, help, and empower others. She holds a postgraduate degree in psychology from Madras University and has trained extensively to hone her academic and clinical skills in counseling over these years. She is also a trained and qualified CCF supervisor and mentors interns to help them bridge the gap between theory and practice. Her core strengths lie in her ability to empathize, respond to people's needs instantaneously, and create an immediate rapport with the client irrespective of their issues, age, and life stage. She was an assistant professor at the university and the university counselor for Satyabhama University, Chennai for 3 years. She worked with students and faculty alike in that role and also taught B.Ed and M.Ed students the paper Student in Classroom Psychology. Ms. Nandini is a regular trainer, guest faculty, um, and a coach for corporates and many wellness providers in Chennai. Today, she also runs her own employee assistant programs for specific clients and is quick to tailor make effective programs and workshops as per the corporate's area of focus and need. A consultant in many schools and colleges in the city, she regularly conducts training, teacher orientations, and sensitization workshops to enable and empower teachers to bring out the best in their students and in themselves. She was a key speaker at the Hindu Lit Fest 2018 and conducted a very engaging talk for parents and caregivers on parenting today that was very well received. She's a registered practicing counselor and an active member of Chennai Counselors Foundation and also a life associate member of Indian Psychiatric Society. A regular donor at the Guild of Services Sneha Southern Girls Home Egmore and continues to be an enthusiastic fundraiser for Rasa India. She was an active volunteer at the pediatric board of the Adya Cancer Institute Chennai and Karnataka State Council for Child Welfare that runs Sharanya Children's Home in Bangalore. She is also a certified transpersonal hypnotherapist and a crystal energy healer and loves working with the metaphysical, doing energy work. She has done her pranic healing and TA and is currently doing a course in animal communication. She is also a MSME certified POSH consultant. She has co-authored an ebook titled Talking with Children, a short parenting manual for COVID-19 pandemic as a part of the CSR activity for CCF that was released in April 2020 and has completed 3 short-term online courses from foreign universities. She consults at Venkateshwara Hospital, Nandanam, and at Saraswati Vidyalaya and Sri Shankara Vidyashram, Chennai. It's a pleasure to have you with us today, madam. Over to you, Nandini, ma'am.
Thank you so much. Thank you. And so kind of you. You didn't have to read all of it, but thank you anyways. And thank you, Anupama, for such a beautiful docufilm. I think every time I see it, it just kind of, gets you to revisit everything that CCF stands for. And I think it's beautiful to also sensitize students who have chosen psychology to really, take a sneak peek of what this umbrella term of, counselors, therapists, or, counseling psychology can mean for them. So thank you so much for them. And it is completely my pleasure to be doing this session on a topic which is really close to our heart. I think there is so much that is said about ethics, but either you have it or you don't, right? So even before we get started, I'd like to welcome all the girls and thank them to be here. I'm not going to put you on a spot right away and tell you to turn on your cameras, but I really want to understand what are ethics for you. And I don't want a definition, but I just want to understand, what do you really understand by the concept of ethics? And then we can get into ethics in counseling. I have a brief presentation. I will share that with you, but it'll be just nice to understand from you, what is your understanding of the term ethics? Because we have ethics in everything, right? We also have ethics in friendships. We also have ethics in families. So what does it mean for you? Anybody? And I'd really like for you, to keep this interactive, because it is challenging as is to talk into a computer screen. So it'll be nice if, you can also give me some energy. Otherwise, I'm going to also only replicate your energy. Anybody? If you feel that, yes, chatting on the chat is easier for you, feel free to, send in your responses. And like I said, I don't want a textbook answer. I just want to understand, what do you understand with the term ethics? When we talk about ethics, what does it mean for you? Anybody?
Morally acceptable thing, ma'am.
Morally acceptable thing. Thank you, Gayatri. I wish I had, chocolates to give away, but this is the drawback of, what we are doing on a virtual platform. Absolutely. And who makes these morally okay rules or norms? Who makes it? Is there somebody?
The society.
The society. Okay, very good. Should we have these ethics? Are they even needed? Because how can the society tell me what I should be doing or what I should not be doing? Who's the society? Do you think it's needed? Do you think it's a good thing to have ethics? It's not needed? Or why are people asking me to behave in a certain way? You can choose to disagree, and I can guarantee you're not going to be taken to task. But I just really want to understand, what are your thoughts about this? Because these are things that you are going to experience once you graduate. And should you consider, becoming a counselor? Should you consider taking on, the path of becoming a therapist? These are things that we will come across, right? And not necessarily even a therapist. In any walk of life, there are ethics and there is a code of conduct, right? And I think that is why it makes it so important. Okay, so let me start sharing a window, and just let me know if you are able to. Okay, just give me a moment. I seem to be having some trouble in sharing this. Just a second. Let me know if you are able to view my. Are you able to view?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Oh, all right. I don't know now why the subtitles are coming up. Okay, so let me just get started and take you. Sorry, this is. Okay, are you still able to view the screen?
No, ma'am.
All right. Sorry.
Nandini, your captions are on. Turn on captions. Is that on? Is that why the subtitles are coming in?
Where do I look for that? I'm just trying to get that.
Right at the bottom, next to present now, raise hand.
Slide now. No, 1 second. Subtitles. I don't need the subtitles. I don't know why others.
Yeah.
I'm not able to find where to switch it off. Okay, should I just try?
No, there's a turn on captions right below. No, you can see raise hand, present now. Can you see turn on captions there? Is it on?
Turn on.
That's when your subtitles come.
Where is it, Anu? I'm not able to find it.
Right at the bottom, yeah, where we have leave, the camera, the audio, you have raise hand, turn on captions, present now, bottom of Google Meet.
Oh, bottom of Google Meet. Hang on.
Yeah, not on your presentation. It will be at the bottom of Google Meet.
Okay, I have present now and those 3 dots. Is that where you're saying?
No, the other side, this one, turn on captions.
Yeah, I got turn on captions.
Switch it off.
Okay. All right. Girls, I'm so sorry about this, but it's still coming on. Is it better now? I think it's
I can't
on.
see your presentation. I can see you.
Now? Okay. All right. So let's get started. Please ignore the subtitles and please try and pay attention to what we are going to be discussing. I don't know how to turn it off. I don't know how this has come on. So my apologies for that. I think just a brief start on what was CCF's intention. You did see the docu-film, but CCF is a body of counselors, of like-minded professionals, and this was established way back in 2004. We are proudly in our 17th year. And this is essentially to really promote mental health among professionals, right? And who is a part of CCF? So there is anybody who's a counselor, you could be a special educator, you could be a social worker, you could be a teacher, you could be from any of the allied health services, and you could still be a member, you could also be a student, and so on and so forth, right? What is it essentially that we do? So our real association or fellowship is really about facilitating exchange and growth, right? Where there is so much that's happening in terms of new therapies, in terms of different things that we don't know what's happening, right? In terms of bringing in specialists, conducting workshops, having case study circles, offering seminars, so on and so forth. And that is something that we do on an ongoing basis. So that's really about CCF. Coming to ethics, and specifically, I think ethics in counseling and psychotherapy. Why do you think we need ethics in counseling and psychotherapy? And I'm not sure if you paid a lot of attention to the docu-film. There is actually a manual, a book that CCF released on ethics and counseling. And ethics are nothing but, like I think Gayatri, I thought, shared from your class, that it is essentially a moral principle, right, that governs a person's behavior. And who makes these so-called norms, rules? Of course, yes, the people, the society that we live in. And when I asked you, do we need something like this? I think absolutely it is an essential, right? It is essential for us to have some kind of norms which are okay, agreeable, and acceptable, right? But when you become a counselor, you also change so much as a person, because something which is not okay, maybe with your parents, maybe with your close friends, is really okay with the therapist, right? And I really feel so privileged to be a therapist. I had a previous innings. I was a marketing professional way back. And I believe that even I can notice the change that has actually happened, right? In terms of professions, in terms of people, where we would look at somebody and we'd say, oh my God, is this what this person does? Oh, she's a divorcee. Oh my God, look at this one. She has two boyfriends she's seeing at the same time, right? And all the time you are judgmental. And that is coming from some, behavior pattern of yours. But to know that once you are a counselor and you are sitting in that chair, you could have a client who has 3 boyfriends. You could have somebody who is married and still having an extramarital affair, right? But if I'm going to be sitting in judgment, and if I'm going to be thinking, oh, is this what this woman does? My God, what's going on, it is just not acceptable behavior. And I think that is why it is so essential that yes, values are open for all, and these are also personal. We learn values from our home, we learn them from, of course, organizations, and we also learn universal values, right? Be honest, look out for each other, take care of people, mankind, contribute to a cause that is close to your heart, so on and so forth. But please understand, girls, that this is not something that can be forced onto anyone. It is very, very important that this is something that you realize for your own self, and that you are able to follow to the T, because it is something that you sign up for. And I say this even in the purview of being a mother, being a parent, being a wife. I might want my children to have the same set of values, to have that integrity, right? Or have their ethics really, really solid. I can't force them. I can showcase them. I can talk to them about it. I can sensitize them. But beyond that, it is really their choice, and it is what they choose, right? To follow their life through. And I need to step back, and I need to be okay with it, and I need to be acceptable. So I think a code of ethics is really a guide of principles, and every organization has a code of ethical conduct. I remember when I was in Satyabama University, we had a code of conduct on even dressing, right? When I moved to from the previous hospital to where I am right now, we had a code of conduct even there. There is only this that you can do, you cannot do this, you should only come in a sari, and blah, 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 right? And this is something that the organization actually sets up to make sure that there is transparency, honesty in the business, and you carry it out with your own personal integrity, right? So please feel free to stop me anywhere and just ask. I am not able to view the Zoom screen when I'm actually on the presentation, so I'm not able to see if you raise your hand. Just unmute yourself and please ask a question, because the intention of this session is really to help you understand what ethics is, right? It is not about me giving you gyan. So it is really about you feeling comfortable and understanding why ethics are important, what are ethics in counseling, and what is it that we can do. So if there's anything that comes up for you through this entire course, please unmute yourself and ask. Okay. So CCF actually came up with a code of ethics, and when CCF, opened shop way back in 2004, counseling as a profession itself was in infancy, right? It was at a very, very nascent stage. So people said, yeah, I've done one CHAPA course, I'm a good counselor. I have done a master's and I have trained extensively and I'm a good counselor. I'm a school counselor. I'm a marriage counselor. I work only with children. I work only with destitutes. I only work with rape victims, and so on and so forth, right? But we, the founders felt that there was no code of conduct, right? How does an individual practitioner behave, conduct themselves, really upgrade their own skill set and figure out what is it that they need to enhance in terms of an education or a further certification. And then they said that, yeah, maybe we should actually come out with a manual that is going to help not just the members, but also the fraternity. Because again, there is no licensing body for counselors as yet, right? And that is something that you people should be very, very aware of if you are actually following what's happening in the news today. A lot of there is a lot of lobbying that's happening on students and professionals who have done either a part-time course or a distant education course, and now there are organizations and the government saying that this is not valid anymore, right? Only a master's program from a legit university is something that would be a prerequisite for you to become a counselor. And now the others who have actually done these courses are up in arms saying that, excuse me, there was a course, the government issued this course, I have done this course, I have actually gone and furthered myself, my own skill set. Now, how can you tell me I cannot practice? And all of this gray area is really coming from the fact we did not have a very clear cut guideline, right? And which is why people don't know, is this okay, is that okay? There was so much of difficulty in even getting a designation. Are you a therapist? Are you a counseling psychologist? Are you a clinical psychologist? Are you a psychologist? What is the difference, you know? So people didn't know what is it that you would also want to call yourself as. And today, of course, you name it and you have fancy tags. You can call yourself as a relationship counselor, you can call yourself as a life coach, you can call yourself as I'm just a change agent, and so on and so forth, right? Because again, going back to how we have doctors passing out of a medical school, when they pass out, they actually have a license number, right? And that's when their credentials are clean. But unfortunately, counseling is not yet a registered profession in India, except for RCI professionals. Where you have Rehab Council of India, based in Delhi. They do a lot of work on rehab counseling. So they work with specially able, they work with sports people who are people like you and me, but then unfortunately they have an accident and then they take up sports, or they are paraplegic and stuff like that. And there is specific rehab counseling for clients like that, right? And now that is the only profession in India as of today that is actually legalized in terms of a license number. Okay. In addition to that, of course, then you have others which come under OT specialists, or you could have a speech therapist, you could have a special educator, so on and so forth, right? But those are little cutie subsets of like what is it that you can specialize into, right? And that is beyond the scope of what we are discussing today. So the ethics code that was actually created, right, was really for individual practitioners to know how to conduct themselves, also for institutions and organizations. We had so many school counselors saying that, you know what, I've become a school counselor, they want me to take one substitution period, or you know what, they want to call me for invigilation, and they want me to do all of this, but ma'am, I don't even have a place to sit and actually counsel my students because all the classrooms are full. If I sit in the staff room, all the teachers want to know the gossip. Oh, this child has come. Yeah, this child is a problem. Tell me, what is his story? Oh, 8th standard le. He has a girlfriend. Ah, that's why the marks are low. And it would just become into one peria gossip session, right? So it was very, very important also for the organizations to know, if you are hiring a school counselor, right, what are your roles and expectations of this person, and vice versa. Also for the counselor to know what is the amount of work that I'm signing up, and more importantly, my job description and my job roles, right? And so many other agencies. We also work with social workers. We also work with the health department. We also work with the police. We also work with lawyers sometimes, right? And this is really, really important. For example, there is a divorce case, there is a marital client, the husband and wife are coming to you, and suddenly the husband says, yeah, she's the one who's crazy. I want you to give me everything. Ma'am, you have seen everything that this woman is doing. She has got a psychiatric issue. See, I also have these prescriptions. Can you please write and give it to me? I can give this to the court and I can apply for a divorce, right? Is that something which is ethical? Yes or no, girls? Are you still awake or have you gone to sleep?
No, ma'am.
You're awake, or is it ethical or not ethical?
It's not ethical, ma'am.
Okay, thank you. And that is something that again needed to be put out there in terms of behaviors that are acceptable and completely non-acceptable, right? And also with the aim to ensure quality practice, training, and a lot of research, right? Because CCF itself has these wings and they do a lot of research work and a lot of training. So when they have courses like ACE or school counseling program, where they're actually bridging the gap between whatever you study in college and whatever you need to know hands-on in your practical practice is something that you're going to be taught. But again, ethics is something that either you have it or you don't, right? And it's always good to have a manual to go back and check in. Is this something that is okay or not? I think the core of ethics is really about knowing your boundaries, right? For us to know that, yes, it is a very, very responsible position of being a counselor, sitting on the other side of the fence, and there is this vulnerable client who comes to you and completely is willing to share all the deeper, darker secrets about his or her life, the difficulties that they're experiencing, and so on, right? Now, what is it that I'm going to do with that information? Right? Even if we were to do, I really wish, this was in the physical format. And if we had one counseling session that we did, even as a mock training, you have to be so careful not to ask the person difficult questions, right? To know that, yes, if I am doing this as a part of training, who is watching her, right? What are they going to say after the training is over to her? How much information has she shared? Is this something that is going to make her life in this college difficult going forward because she has bared herself, right? What is it that I'm going to do with the information? Am I going to go and tom this information to every other person that I know, that, oh my God, look at this girl, this is what she's up to, right? So I think all of that is something that is at the base of core of ethics, right? It is the basic principle of counseling. And in fact, in advanced countries, and certainly I'm talking about the US and Europe and everywhere else where counseling has been, there for way longer than when it started in India, they have a code of conduct, right? Confidentiality is the cornerstone of any session, right? If I'm going to do this session, and if there is somebody from your class who shares something with me, and you say, oh my God, I shared with you, ma'am, in really hoping that in good faith you're going to listen to me and maybe you're going to help me through my issue or problem. But I take this story and I say, wow, this is awesome. You know what? Maybe I can take it to the Hindu and I can put my own, lemon and masala on it, and I can really actually sizzle it and make it like a breaking news. Do you know what's happening at, the psychology department of MGR Janaki? Would you ever want to engage with me? One, more importantly, it's not just that you will not come back to the counselor. You will lose faith in the profession itself. When you have a real-time issue in life, right? And somebody says, maybe you should actually go and speak to a counselor. And you'll say, oh God, these counselors, no, I don't trust them at all, right? So it's very important to honor the trust placed in the practitioner, and vice versa. The practitioner also has to be able to really, really build that rapport where the client is completely comfortable. There are so many clients, who come and the first thing they say, are you sure this is going to be confidential, ma'am? You're not going to share any information, right? Not to anybody from my family, not to anybody. And then you have to tell them, you have to really make them feel comforted, saying that I am going to take down notes, but you know what? These notes are for me. These notes are, if you come back in a month, 2 months, I'm not going to remember your story. So I really need to take notes down, and we have to take permission before we actually get it down. Respect for clients' autonomy. What is autonomy, girls? Any take? What is autonomy? Autonomy is nothing but your own independent thought and you taking a call, right? Now, let's take an example of premarital sex, okay? I could be another generation and I could say, oh, no, I need to save my virginity, and it's a gift that I'm going to give to my husband at marriage, right? That is something that I have been raised with. These are beliefs that I hold very close. Now, if my client has come to me and maybe she's a young adult at 24, 25, and she's, been intimate with her boyfriend, but the boyfriend says, hey, I'm not going to marry you, I'm so sorry, you know what, we are from different religions and culture and my family is not acceptable. And if she says that I really feel something else about it, I need to be okay with it, right? I cannot actually put on my value system onto her and say, no, but this is so wrong, you have lost your virginity to him, you must only marry him. Okay, you cannot overburden and overpower the client just because she's younger than you and you are at a place of authority, right? You have to respect the client's autonomy to be able to decide whatever she chooses, whatever is really the best for her. The best interest of the client is something that we always need to be aware of, and that is the only agenda from the counselor's point of view. There are times if you're not comfortable about a session, a lot of people, right, if they want to come and discuss sex, a lot of counselors are not comfortable talking about it. You don't have to take that client on, because maybe you're going to yourself not be confident and comfortable talking about it. You're going to give them half baked information, they are already anyway suffering somewhere else. There's no point in making it a whole kachamucha situation. You gently refer the client and you say, I'm so sorry, I don't specialize in this. Let me give you a reference of a colleague who will actually be able to help and assist you, right? Also, special education. Again, a lot of people don't feel comfortable. And it could be anything, working with disability. Again, that's a huge area. People say, no, and the client the client is not pavam. The client says, yeah, I was born like this. I don't have two legs, but you know what? I have a very, very smart brain. Can you work with me? Right? But if I'm not going to be able to look at him as a complete individual, and I only just keep saying, but he's so intelligent, he's so good looking, pavam, you know, he doesn't have any legs, I am not the right fit for him, right? Also, you have to be able to stay completely unbiased, non-judgmental. Be just and fair. If you know that yes, there is going to be transference or counter transference, make sure that you are able to step back, right? A lot of times when you're working with children, okay, and I have two teenage kids myself, and sometimes if you listen to them, I cannot become their mother, right? Just because I have a child at that age. And if you catch yourself actually slipping, you need to step back. You either need to terminate those sessions or you need to talk about it. What about this child's story is actually making you feel, oh God, power, what if it happens to my child? You know, I'll share an example with you. This happened actually 3 days back. There is a girl from Manipal, from Chennai, but studying in Manipal. And she had a very, very traumatic experience. She went out with a bunch of friends. They went into a club. There was, I think her drink was spiked. There was a date rape drug that was put in it. She drank, and then all she remembers is there was this guy who told her, let's take a walk at the beach. And then she woke up and of course she was raped. Okay. Very young. And for me, it was just like, oh my God, poor kid. Why doesn't she go to the cops? Why doesn't she do something about it? And it was so difficult, right? But if you are going to keep putting your own daughter there or your own child there, it's not healthy. It's not healthy for her. It's not healthy for you. Vice versa, right? If the client feels, ma'am, you're like the mother I didn't have. You're like my akka. You remind me of the Perima that died. Okay, you're just like my Chitti. It's not going to work, right? Because I am not your Chitti. I'm not your Perima. I am your counselor, and I need to keep that professional relationship so that I am able to maneuver the counseling therapeutic process. Otherwise, what's going to happen is going to be only about emotions. Oh, but you are talking to me like this. Perima epo mein apdi pesa mate. But I am not your Perima. Right? So I think it's really important to actually understand that, right? And avoiding harm to your clients. Be very, very aware when we are even processing their information. What is it that we are saying to them? How are we conducting ourselves? How are we paraphrasing? Right? What is the tonality of your voice? What is the intention? Are you really trying to hit them when they are weak and vulnerable? You know, even if you have to clarify something, there is a way to ask. You cannot be sitting on one judgmental throne and say, oh, who asked you to go and drink? Right? And if I ask her something like that, she'll be like, you know what, I'm so sorry, why did I fix this appointment with you? Because you're already judging me and implying that it was my fault. Innate moral qualities of a therapist, right? And this is something that I'm sure you would have done in your course curriculum. You need to be empathetic. What is empathy? Anybody? Quickly, let's do this. Otherwise, we're not going to
Putting
have.
oneself in some other's shoe
Can
and
we
then like
literally
view
put? Yeah.
and
Can we
viewing
go ahead?
like yours. I mean, like you view the situation from how they are viewing it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So, what is the difference between sympathy and empathy? Sympathy is ayo pavam, ayo pavam. Okay, empathy is I can try and understand, and I know how difficult this must be. And I learned, a very, very good lesson in empathy, which I'll never ever forget. Okay, so in 2005, we had the famous tsunami, right? And soon after that, when I moved to Chennai, there was a lot of rehab work that was happening. And being associated with one of the, I think the church groups or something, they were doing something, and we had to go and we had to talk to the fisher women folk at Mahabalipuram. So we go there and I'm talking to this woman, and yes, empathetic is what I'm thinking in my head, and I'm saying it must be so sad, no, like you saw the whole family being washed off. And she almost got angry, and I was lucky she didn't slap me, where she said, என்ன என்ன empathy, what do you understand, what என்ன புரியுது உனக்கு, and I was just like, what? And she looked at me, and of course she was mad, she was angry, she was hurting, she was grieving. And she said, do you know what it feels to lose a husband? I don't think so, because you still have your husband. Do you know what it feels like to see your children being washed away in front of you? I don't think you even understand what I'm going through, right? And that's when it hit me that you can almost, when we say, I understand, we don't understand what the other person is going through. We can only almost understand and put ourselves in the other person's shoes, right? So when we say, this is the typical thing, right? Putting yourself in other person's shoes. It's really about how hard must it be for you. And this is again something when people talk of a breakup. Yeah, I understand. I've also gone through it. But what you have gone through it and what the other person has gone through it might be really, really, really different, right? You need to stay sincere, first and foremost to yourself, and second of all to the process. Respect it, right? Respect the client. Don't ever undermine or underestimate. Please understand, every time, my teacher used to tell me this, every time a client is coming and we are checking out the client and we're saying, oh, what's going on? Okay, make my notes, put everything together. The client is also checking out the therapist. Does she get my story? Is she able to understand? எனக்கு ஏதாவது ரிலீஃப் இருந்தது இங்கே வரதுக்கு, or I was better off without actually consulting somebody. So it's very important for us to be able to respect our clients. They teach us so much. Even today, I'm telling you, with so many years, every client will teach you something about yourself. And for that learning, you need to be humble, right? Of course, you need to be competent. You need to have the skill set. You need to upgrade your skills. You need to read. You need to be actually able to identify what about your own skill sets is the weak area, and figure out what is the kind of training, what is the kind of filling of this gap is actually going to help me get better. Integrity is again something that you can never compromise, right? Please understand, our fraternity is so small, right? So your one wrong deed or your one wrong misbehavior can just come back like that, is one. Second, our work only expands and multiplies by word of mouth. We are not We are not allowed to advertise our work. We can showcase our work, of course, but you're not able to advertise it, right? But if you have come to me and you have actually experienced a lot of relief, you will talk to two other friends. Nah, ange pone, I think she's pretty decent, you should go. But the same time, if I have messed up with you, right, in whichever way, either with my sincerity, empathy, integrity, resilience, respect, humility, anything, that is going to go back into five folds, right? You're not just going to tell somebody who's asking for help, but you will also go and say, I went there and this one's really messed up. Today, that is why there is an entire crackdown, because there are counselors, psychologists who call themselves psychologists, who are actually prescribing medication to clients and patients, right? And imagine how irresponsible is that. How can you do something like that and give someone sleeping pills? So yes, we know medications, right? Because we should know. If my client is depressed or he has anxiety, I need to know what this medication is about, but I can never prescribe it, right? All I can do is gently send him to either his psychiatrist or actually send him to his family physician for them to take care of his meds. Fundamental values is, I think, respect for human rights and dignity. Other peria gray area is there in our culture, unfortunately, right? Where we talk about so many things, but basic human rights and dignity is a huge question mark. And more complicated, complex subjects like LGBTQAI, those are again things that we don't really know enough about, right? There are specialists who work in that field, but just because it doesn't work for me, I have no right to take the dignity of another person. It is his or her sexual preference. It is of no prerogative to me, right? Integrity of client counselor relationships. Now, over a period of time, I have seen you since you were in your school. Today, now you are a young professional, and we become friends, So I say, first salary, okay, wow, take me out. Not happening, okay? Until unless I have completely terminated my therapeutic alliance with you and you become a friend of mine, right? That is a separate thing. But even then, we say, please, make sure that your relationship stays professional. Also accepting gifts, and it's really difficult when you are a school counselor, because on Teachers Day they'll make cards for you, they'll get kuti gifts, they'll get you a pen, a rose, on Cadbury's and all that, and it's really sad to say no to them, but to tell them I don't want a gift. Or sometimes they romba ice podano, they'll bring a sari also. Then you have to tell them, thank you very much, but I cannot accept this. Why don't you make a card for me, right? I will take that. And then you take that and you stick it. Or if it is a big whatever silk or whatever big chocolate, you actually distribute it then and there and you finish it. Somebody brings, a client is getting engaged, it's not happened. Nobody comes with a box of sweets. They only come when there is no maple or the girl has run away from the mandapam. I'm not getting married. I've had a breakup. I am wanting to kill myself. I am suicidal. I'm cutting myself. But theoretically, if there is somebody who comes, inviting you with a box of laddu and saying, hello, madam, this is my engagement patrike. Please come. Then and there you distribute it in the hospital. You do not bring it back home, okay? First and foremost, we should not encourage it. But yeah, if the client is really insistent, you just give it right there, even in his presence. There's nothing wrong, right? Quality of professional knowledge and application is non-negotiable. If you do not know enough, please don't open shop and don't start practicing, because you cannot say, I'll learn with my client. The client can be your guinea pig, but is very, very vulnerable. And that is a responsibility that we have, that we are able to actually steer clear and see through, right? Elevating personal distress and suffering, right? Sometimes you have not done enough self-work. You yourself don't know what are your issues, or what are your issues, but you're very numb and comforted in denial. What happens then? Then when the client comes with the same story, yes, Sama, I completely get it. Even my mother-in-law tortures me like this. She is not coming here to hear your stories and your distress with your mother-in-law. She's asking you, I can't deal with this woman. What is it that I can do with my life, right? So you need to figure out that, yes, I need to do some inner work and I need to figure out what is my way out of this suffering, because this is not something that my client is going to help me in a session that she is going to also pay me for, right? It doesn't work like that at all. Increase your own personal effectiveness. It's very important, right? What is it that you identify with? What is that job mean to you? Because it is your identity. Now, when ma'am introduced me and she said, oh, this is Nandini, she does rah, 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 I feel so good, right? Because this is so many years of my work. And here today, I'm at this level that I can share my knowledge, with those budding kuti counselors. So you have to stay very, very transparent to your own integrity. It's not about somebody else coming with a lie detector test and saying, oh, are you ethical? Are you not? You know in your head, are you or are you not, right? A lot of times also with client referrals. Nariya pair are not able to actually deal with client referrals because they believe, oh, a business poido, right? But if you know you do not have the skill set, if you know you do not have the expertise, right, or you do not have the professional knowledge, you better refer the client out than actually hold on to the client and really mess them up, right? Any questions so far, girls? Anything that you want to ask me?
Ma'am, I have a question.
Go ahead, dear.
Ma'am, can we do self-disclosure, ma'am? Like as you said, if a client comes with a certain issue, can we share our thoughts on it or what we have
Absolutely.
gone through?
Absolutely, but it needs to the situation really needs to warrant it. It cannot be like, I'm a peria martyr and idile enna peris, I've also gone through it. So again, see what is the tonality of my voice, or am I actually saying, I understand it's really difficult, but you know what, this too shall pass. You know what, you look at me as someone successful. Do you know what happened in my life? Would you want to know? If he says, yes, I want to know, then you can share. But it cannot again be from a position of, sitting on top of a chair and saying like, I know it all and I'm like, the answer to your worries and problems. So self-disclosure, absolutely, very, very important and significant if the session and the client warrants it.
Thank you.
My pleasure. Any other questions? Okay, so keep thinking, girls, and we will have time. I'm sorry, we are already like running late also. Good practices, I think, work environment. And today in this work from home situation, it's crazy, right? Because everybody is working from home. I'm here. My daughter has come and told me, talk softly. I'm on one school class. Husband is saying, you're making too much noise. Don't switch on this. Don't do this. It's really difficult, right? Now, in all of this, if there is a client and he or she has a really terrible story to tell, they don't want that vulnerability. Oh my God, am I on loudspeaker? Can everybody hear me? Ma'am, are you sure there's nobody around? Because it is difficult for them to put their hand up and solicit the help, but they come, right? And when they come, we need to make sure that your work environment is actually professional. Your own health should be at the top of it. There are days if you don't feel good, if you feel that you are exhausted, you've been working excessively, you need to have the courage to say, you know what, I'm so sorry, I don't have the energy in me to be able to do a good session for you. Can I please reschedule? If it's really urgent for you, I will refer you out to another colleague. But you should not say, oh, no solitaire means, and the client poed, oh, then enakku kaas kadikadu, right? If that is your intent, then I don't know what is the kind of work that we are doing in any case, right? Because you have to be aware of your own energy levels also. This is only energy work we are doing, right? And a lot of it is mental. Keeping the trust, proper conduct, also dress code, right? You can wear informals, you can wear whatever you're comfortable with, but there is a dress code when you are even doing Skype sessions, right? Now I can still sit here in shorts and a t-shirt, okay, but it is not something that is warranted, right? If I'm doing a training, there is a way that I need to come across, because this is also the attribute of my role. But if I meet you at the beach, maybe I can be in a shorts and a t-shirt. Do you understand? It's very important to maintain that conduct. Referrals, we spoke about documentation. It's a very, very important part. Everything needs to get documented. And we need to keep these documents safe at least for 5 years, because you never know if the client comes back or something happens. And sometimes it's so beautiful, you know, like you see so many clients, you're not able to remember their name. You're not able to, you know, place the face to the name. But once they start their story, ma'am, I'd come to you 6 years back. Oh, really? Okay. Was it helpful? Yeah, ma'am, it was very helpful. Now I have a different problem. I was just wondering. I'm so sorry I'm not able to place you. Ma'am, do you remember, you know, this had happened, that had happened, da, 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 da? And then you're like, yeah, of course I remember you, you know. So you will always remember your clients, and you need to keep everything documented. It is, again, another huge skill set. Representation in media. Now, if you have directors, a lot of people from the film and the cine industry are clients. Nobody needs to get to know about it, to the extent not even my family members, right? Because I can't say, oh, this actor comes, or this producer came, this director came. People will be just curious. Huh? Wow, avlo periya panakar, ennada problem? What is going on in his life? Who are you? Why should I be discussing anything with you? Okay. And representation in media, that's the other thing, right? If some journalist gets the whiff, oh, is this guy in therapy? It's none of your business, because you are just looking for a sizzling heading for your article, right? So you need to be very, very grounded and balanced to not get hooked into all these kind of behaviors, which are certainly not helpful, not for you, and definitely not anywhere close to being acceptable for your client. Guidelines, working with colleagues, like I said, again, please don't ever be insecure. There is enough and more space for all of us to thrive, right? But somewhere, if I say, oh, what I know, I'm not going to teach this one. If I tell this one, then, you know, she'll take all my clients. There are over 1 million and 1 billion people. Everybody needs help. There are enough. If there is somebody who's destined to come to me, he or she will only come to me. If there is somebody who needs to go to you, they will only come to you. So you need to have very, very transparent, healthy working relationships with also your colleagues, right? There are specific guidelines for private practice. Make sure you are able to talk to the client upfront before they come in, talk about the fees, talk about the length of the session. Don't plan how many sessions. You know, people almost give you a menu card. I think this is the problem. I have not even met the client. I'm talking to the mother. I think it might be depression. Okay, no problem. 6 sessions panla. On what basis, right? You cannot decide till you have spoken to her. Maybe she hates you. She's never going to come back to you. Then what happens to your 6 sessions, right? So it's very important for you to tell them that, you know, come and experience a session. And after the session is over, let me know how it was for you. If it works for you, we can fix up another appointment. And always, always, always make sure that you are under supervision, because all of us are vulnerable. You might be very good at your job, okay? So you can be a good trainer, a good counselor, a good whatever person at work. But maybe my problem is coming from, you know, my family. Some problem with my husband, my children, my siblings, my in-laws. Where do I take that, right? And supervision is very important, because otherwise it's going to slip into your counseling session. Challenges in therapeutic relationships, we spoke about this. What is transference and what is counter-transference? I gave you examples.
Transference is when the client sees the counselor as a family member or someone. They place that opinions on the counselor, and counter transference is the other way around, like when the counselor puts their own opinions on the client.
Absolutely. Thank you for that. And also to, you know, be completely non-judgmental. If you're not non-judgmental, and like I said, if somebody is actually having, you know, a complete disclosure of everything he or she has gone through, I have seen sex workers, right? And if I'm going to say, oh God, you're actually a prostitute, my God, I'm okay to take her fees being a prostitute, but I'm so judgmental about her profession. it's not okay. It's certainly not okay. Professional boundaries. Ma'am, you're so cute. I want to go out for a coffee with you. Excuse me? It doesn't work, right? So you have to be very, very firm to say, can we just stick to what we are discussing here? I'm sorry, you are my client. Thank you for the compliment, but it doesn't work. I do not have coffees with my clients. You know, then and there you have to put a full stop. And then if you're uncomfortable, better refer him out. You know, because next time he's going to come again, he's going to ask you for a cup of coffee, right? I really like this, and this is dedicated to your teachers. Your teaching job has stressed you out, and so the counselor decides that he's going to prescribe an antidepressant for your students. Okay, of course, it's in the lighter vein. Ethical issues in e-counseling. This is something that we have struggled with the entire year, right? All of last year after the pandemic really broke out. Challenges in counseling by email, web chats, and voice notes. Okay, and that's again setting boundaries. I have clients who send a 30-minute voice note. When am I supposed to hear it? Ma'am, I've sent you everything on the voice note. You can just, listen to it and then we can schedule. What am I supposed to do with my life? I don't have those extra 30 minutes, so somewhere you have to actually build those boundaries and tell them, I will talk to you and you can tell me that, when we meet, because it's also your time and your energy. Right? One. The other thing is there can be some very important information that they tell you in the voice note, but they miss in the face-to-face session or the virtual session. And then you're just thinking like, oh, but idapati solove illiye, what happened? Did I miss out on something? Process of internet counseling, it follows pretty much the same guidelines. And also here the protocol is about your dressing, about I can't say, I'm listening to you and also keep, doing my own thing, or switch off the camera and I'm cutting my own vegetables saying, yeah, but I'm listening to you. Okay. It's very important that you are here present 200%. Guidelines remain the same: confidentiality, documentation, fees, whatever you're going to charge, and your specific area of expertise. If you do not specialize in that, please let the client know. I think you're doing them a service and they actually get back and saying, that's so kind of you, ma'am, and put them in touch with somebody else who can actually really, really help them. Bottom line is stay professional, and it really speaks volumes. In CCF, we have a complaints committee, ethical committee. And what happens is, if there is a complaint from a client, if a client feels cheated, if a client feels that I went to this counselor, so much of a media, either other, she was supposed to be a very good person, but she's actually made my life miserable. Or if there is a complaint regarding a fellow practitioner, I refer a client to somebody else and that somebody else has actually had some unethical practice with the client, we can actually take this to the ethics committee, right? And then the ethics committee has their own protocol. They actually figure it out. They have a joint discussion. There are other senior counselors who sit in on that committee, and then they figure out what is the way of redressal, right? Complaints could be on professional misconduct, malpractice, services way below standard, and also sometimes reckless behavior and negligence. Let me give you an example of that. So if there is a child who is suicidal and is cutting herself up, has told you 5 times in the session, I feel like taking my life away, I feel like taking my life away, but you have not reacted because you have a set agenda and you are just chasing something else, right? And then she goes home and she ODs on pills. It is reckless behavior and complete negligence on your part. With suicide, you have to hit the red panic button and you have to inform the parents. That's the only time when confidentiality is broken, when it is suicide or homicide, right? When the client is saying, I'm going to harm myself, or when the client says, oh, this company is useless, I work so hard, I've not got my raise and they're not giving me my promotion, I'm going to go and burn all their buses. I know where the buses are. Something doesn't sound right, right? So you're going to certainly escalate that client into HR. And if it is about personal harm, you will get in touch with the client's family. All right, so this brings me pretty much to the end of this session. I have an interesting quiz for you guys. I really wish I could see your faces. I'm not able to see it. If I do that, then I can't see the presentation. Okay, very quickly, let's just finish. Are you still able to view my screen, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes,
Yes,
ma'am.
ma'am.
So let me ask these questions and then we'll have a quick 5 minutes Q&A. The first one, the ethical principles take into account diversity of clients, growing availability of counseling professionals, counselors' level of expertise and training, a variety of counseling settings, including telecounseling and online counseling, or all of the above. What is the answer? This is the litmus test, girls. This is to test if you were just listening to me or were you apriye on WhatsApp chatting with other friends or watching some other Netflix series. So what is the answer to the first question? The ethical principles take into account diversity of clients.
All of the above, ma'am?
All of the above. Absolutely. Absolutely. The aim of counseling is to provide opportunities for clients to work towards living in a more satisfying, resourceful way, help clients understand themselves, help clients to help themselves, bring about a voluntary change in the client, or all of the above. What is the
All of the above.
all of the above? Yes. Counseling can be forced onto a client only by significant other. Yes or no?
No.
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 No, ma'am.
No, ma'am.
Why?
Counseling is a voluntary act, ma'am. If they want help, they seek it.
Very good. Absolutely. It is unethical for a counselor to use techniques in which they are not trained, to accept gifts from the client, all of the above.
All of the above.
Yes. A well-to-do client is very satisfied with your work. In gratitude, she wishes to invest in a good office space for you to help others like you have helped her. Will you consider obliging her?
No.
No.
What will you tell her? But because she is really, really happy with your services, what will you tell her? You're right. Your answer is right. But how will you be assertive and how will you tell her?
I mean, I'd probably first thank her for offering, but I'd also say I cannot accept this.
Very good. Exactly. And I think that is what we need to learn, girls. Many a times there is a situation in life where you need to do the right thing, not the easy thing. And you need to stand your ground. And that is where you're able to showcase your integrity, right? Where you say, I'm really, really thankful to you, but you know what? I just cannot accept this. It's really nice of you. It'll be nice if you can send me a few more clients. That much you can say to her and you can just, say bye to her. That's enough. As long as you get your work, it's enough. But you are not actually going to be vulnerable and say, yeah, my lease is coming to an end. It'll be so nice if you can, set me up somewhere. A client's documented records can be shared with anyone, must be maintained in confidentiality for a minimum of 5 years, can be shared with persons in authority such as heads of educational institutions and lawyers.
Must be maintained
in confidential for minimum 5 years.
Yes. And also if we have a summon from lawyers and people in educational institutions saying that this child has been in therapy with you, can you just let us know what's happening? You can completely tell them, I'm so sorry, this is beyond the purview of what I have signed with my client. You can completely tell them, I refuse to share any information with you. And I'm sorry, I'm ethically bound not to be able to share it with you. When a client is inappropriately dressed during a video counseling session, the counselor can continue the session anyway, request the client to dress appropriately and return, end the session immediately, none of the above.
Request the client.
Yeah, very gently you can request the client. For example, okay, I'm doing a session and there is this guy. Okay, not a guy. Guy, we'll think he's a very good looking guy. There is one old fellow, fat, bearded, fully depressed, sitting there on the camera without a shirt. It's not okay, So you have to tell him, sir, I would just wait for a minute. If you could just put on a t-shirt or, put a shirt and come back. There's nothing wrong. Again, the way I word it, the tonality of my voice and my response, right? If I'm going to like get all, excited about it, and if I'm going to have a knee-jerk reaction, it can actually really turn ugly, right? During video counseling sessions, a counselor must be dressed in a formal attire, seated in a formal environment, ensure privacy and disturbance-free environment, all of the above.
All of the
All of the above.
Yes. The last question, I think, in counseling, you realize that your client is in need of career counseling. You have some knowledge and information on and about career counseling. Would you proceed to do career counseling for this client?
No.
Why? You know what career counseling is?
Only some knowledge, ma'am.
Correct. So the operating word there is some knowledge. If you know that you do not have the skill set and the expertise, you are very gently actually going to get the client to solicit help from somebody else who is probably way more better equipped. All right. That is all that I have for you, girls. I hope it was meaningful, important, and there was some useful takeaway for most of you. It would be nice if you have a few questions. We are already ahead by 15 minutes, but I'm sorry. I think I was just struggling with the technical glitch at my end. Any questions? Anu, can we just take maybe 2-3 questions?
There's a lot of time. Don't worry. I think.
Okay. Okay.
For another 15 minutes if they have questions to ask.
Yeah, if you are interested and keen, we are right here.
Mom, I have one question, Mom.
Yes.
If suppose you refer your client to another colleague, but they keep coming back to you for some, I don't know, for some issue or something, and you say that that person is your counselor right now. How do you say it, or like, do you also continue with the sessions and keep up with them?
No, I think it's a great question, and it happens a lot of times. And I'll tell you with a lot of students, right? Because if I have seen a student and the student is really comforted with me, but now I know that the student is becoming dependent on me, I can choose to terminate my sessions, but I'm going to talk about it in my termination that, you know what, this therapeutic alliance is not going anywhere. You're still struggling. The problem still seems to keep recurring. I'm going to refer you to another counselor. She is very loving, kind, and affectionate. Go and check her out. Okay, so she goes for 1 or 2 sessions, then she has a need to come back again. You're again going to talk about it and tell her that the reason I'm not actually able to engage with you is because we have spoken about this. And I'm so sorry, it is also going to be a conflict of interest between me and my colleague. Because my colleague is going to be like, excuse me, what are you doing? You've referred her to me, but Nia, on the quiet, you're seeing her. It's not okay, right? So somewhere you have to have, and you have to get to the bottom of what is the discomfort that she is not being able to settle down with the other other counselor, I'm sorry. And she keeps coming back to you. So talk about that, and get her to actually figure it out.
Okay, Mom. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes.
Ma'am?
Yes.
So if a client is suicidal, we definitely, breach the trust, and we share with their parents or their guardians. So after that, when they come back to the session, how do we rectify that breach of trust?
Yeah. So I'm just going to correct you there. It is not breach of trust, right? So when a client, and especially it can be anybody, of course, if the client is underage and is a minor, even more, right? They have to, some caring adult has to come with them, or a guardian or somebody. But even if it's an adult, when you sign up to counseling, you are aware, or it is an unsaid expectation that only in case of a suicidal attempt, I will break confidentiality. So it's not that, you are breaching their trust. What are we trying to do? We are trying to make the safety plan for that individual. And that is what is most important, right? So every time it's a suicidal client, my responsibility as a client, as a counselor, is to make sure that he is alive. So when he comes back and he says, you know what, but you told my wife and I'm just really miserable, you have to let him come and vent it out, right? And slowly pick back on your relationship or your rapport that you have. Because deep down, when a client is talking to you, why is he telling you, I'm going to kill myself? It's a cry for help. He's putting his hand up and he's saying, I am so vulnerable. There is nothing looking forward in my life anymore, and I'm going to do something crazy. But it is a cry for help. He's asking for help. Understand, girls, it's very, very, very difficult to take your life away. And nothing, and I want to leave that message with all of you, nothing in life warrants us to take our life away. You can have a heartbreak, you don't like your college, you don't get along in this course, nothing. You have a great life ahead of you. You make some other choices and you will figure it out, right? But suicide is no answer. God created us pro-life, right? So somewhere for you to know that if people are talking about that, or they are cutting themselves or indulging in self-harm, some people burn themselves, you know, just to take away the psychological pain, because the physical pain is way worse. Then talk to them about that, get them some help that they can actually access, somebody who they can vent out to and feel validated. I think that is the need there. I hope that answered your question, Gayatri. So you're not reaching
Yes,
his
ma'am,
trust at
definitely.
all.
Ma'am, I have a question.
Yes.
So I was wondering if counselors can get counseling from other counselors, because counseling as a career is emotionally heavy. And if they do get therapy from another counselor, are they allowed to talk about their clients without disclosing their name or something?
So do you mean like peer support groups, or do you mean like, can I go and see my supervisor? So both are possible, right? So one is what you're talking about is counseling itself is really heavy. I have a client, for example, this girl who went on this date rape thing and she got raped, right? Now, if I'm having a difficulty, I can certainly talk about it to my peers in a peer support group or in a case study review. And I can actually ask other counselors, hey, if this child had come to you, what is it that you would do? Because I've reached a dead end. I'm just at a roadblock, right? But the other thing is, I could have a burnout and I am not doing well with my clients because of something that's going on at home. Maybe I have a marital discord going on. My children don't listen to me. Everybody is getting on my nerves. Then I need to go and see another professional counselor, a supervisor or a senior colleague, and say that, you know what, I need a session because I'm just not able to prioritize and figure out anything that's happening in my life. So both are possible and both must be done. There is nothing wrong. If you put your hand up and say, I don't know, I think people respect you so much more, as opposed to coming across like I'm cat's whiskers with two horns and a tail. I know everything. I can never go wrong. We are all human. We all can slip. We all can make so many mistakes, right? And I can be not perceptive about something which another colleague can pick and say, hey, did you actually, probe here? Why don't you ask her these kind of questions? Maybe it's coming from, lack of love and support at her home. Was there any child sexual abuse? So much that can be explored, right? So it's always helpful. Two heads are always better than one. But don't take all your cases to your friends. They'll start, running away from you.
Thank you, ma'am. That was really helpful.
Thank you. So how many of you really want to become counselors?
Me, ma'am.
Me, ma'am.
Okay. All right. That's nice. All right. Any other questions?
We have quite a few to look forward to, Nandini.
Yes.
Bright
budding
youngsters in CCF would always do us good.
Absolutely. And I think it's so beautiful because, I feel that, and I'm not trying to sound condescending, so I apologize if it comes across like that, but I feel that this generation is so blessed, right? When we went to college, we did not know what were the choices. We did not know what counseling would look like, right? And honestly, it was all trial and error. Yahan pe dhakke khao, ange adi, inge adi, you fall, you learn, you fall, you learn. But it has also taught you so much. But I think for you guys, you are blessed that there is a structure, there is a curriculum. There are people in the profession who are actually able to handhold you and teach you the tricks of the trade. But always remember that learn before you are actually ready to fly out. And you can always keep in touch with your supervisors. You can always keep going back and clarifying whatever is difficult or whatever needs clarity. Any other questions, girls? I hope this was a useful session for you.
It was a wonderful session, Nandini. Yeah, any more questions? Sorry.
Thank you, Anu.
Yeah, I just would like to request all you young ladies to please put on your cameras for a minute. I need a screenshot of all of you. You've taken the trouble to come today, so please just take a minute and come online and show your beautiful selves.
Do you want me to take a picture, Anu?
Yeah, please. That would be...
Okay, so what grid should I put it on?
On grid, no? It will come...
layout. Layout. 1 second.
Full screen, yeah.
Full screen. Tiled. Right?
Yeah, tile and full screen.
Yeah, 1 second. Yeah, I have got quite a few in this. Yeah. Okay, young ladies, smile. Ethics was not so heavy and so bad. You can give us a nice smile. Just one moment. I can't move to the other. Yeah, 1 second. There are some.
I've taken a few. So,
yeah. All right.
Thank you so much. You can go back into hiding.
Okay. Any last questions before we close for today?
I have one more question, ma'am. So you were saying that you gave an example that with when it comes to coital relationships or anything, some counselors may not be comfortable talking about it. But isn't it fundamental? I mean, taking counseling as a subject to be open-minded or unbiased?
Yes, absolutely. And I think that's such a brilliant question, but that is where a lot of self-work comes in, right? Because please understand, we all have our own beliefs. There are things that we are comfortable with. There are things we are not comfortable with because of the way we are raised ever since we were babies, right? Do's, don'ts, okay, non-okay, vegetarian, non-vegetarian, religion, every day, no, I don't go to the temple at all. I have to, pray 2 times a day, 3 times a day. And these beliefs can sometimes limit us from becoming completely unjudgmental or unbiased, right? Non-judgmental and unbiased. And so it is important that if you are able to identify that there are 1, 2, 3 things about me that I'm not okay with, right? And I think a little bit of self-help will actually help me in my profession. Please get that inner work done. And I'm telling you, even as way back as when before I started, I had this thing in my head about people being gay, because I had not hung out with anyone who was gay, right? So there was just this perception in my head. But today I also have gay clients and it's okay. I don't have to bring him back home, right? He's a client of mine. And as long as you can stay professional, it does not matter what his sexual preference is or what he does with his life, and for that matter what anyone does with their life after office hours. If I work with people, and people could have different preferences, they could be from a different, and this is where diversity comes in, right? Sometimes we are so close minded about, I don't want to work with this one from this culture, they are always like this, oh this one is like this, it's like, so where are all these prejudices coming from? We need to be able to move beyond. Like when I gave you the example of the sex worker, whatever it is that she does is none of my business. She's even willing to pay my fees. Why should I sneer and, you know, look at her and not respect her job? It is a job, you know. So somewhere to identify what is okay with us and what is not okay with us, and what is not okay with us must go back in supervision and talk to your supervisor. Why am I still holding on to this? Because it's coming from my upbringing where they said that it was not okay. You know, everybody should be straight and you should only get attracted to the opposite gender.
That makes sense, sir. Thank you.
Sure.
Okay, so can we call it a close to this session? Dr. Ragita, thank you so much for this wonderful opportunity where we got to meet young minds and a wonderful question answer session. Needless to say, Nandini's presentation was par excellence. It was a pleasure to watch. I hope all of you found it interesting and enlightening. Thank you, Ragita, once more.
Thank you, ma'am, and thank you, Anu, and thank you all you beautiful ignited minds. I think it's so beautiful to do work with you, because I think you just keep us on our toes, you know, to make sure that we really have not just the answers, but we also don't slip, and we can hopefully showcase to you what good ethics are all about. Right? So good luck to each and every one of you, and God bless you. And I'm looking forward to so many budding counselors. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Bye.
Thank you,
Thank
ma'am.
you
All
so
the
much,
very
ma'am.
best.
Thank you,
Yeah.
ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am. I think someone had asked for my website details, so I'm just sending that. For those of you who would like to keep in touch, all the best, good luck, and take care.